Hello, everybody. This is Jeanne-Marie Pinel here for your second live mentoring call for the Keep Cool and Carry On Discipline Challenge. Good to see everyone. Hello, Marietta. I know we have been in each other's sphere for a while, so welcome back. Thank you for being here. You're muted. I can't hear you. Still muted.
Yes, may I say thank you?
Oh,
I really don't know what I would have done without you.
oh my goodness.
No, I'm serious. Stuck in Mexico. I don't know if you remember.
Yes, I remember very well. Yes.
Stuck in Mexico, looking after my granddaughter during the COVID, when it was just me and her. The parents were stuck, one in each room, doing the work all during COVID. So without you, and without the keep cool and carry on discipline and all the rest, I just don't know what I would have done.
Oh,
So I
thank
then
you.
went back to Mexico twice more,
Okay.
following all the Montessori stuff, plus everything else that a friend of mine from Slovenia, I don't know if you remember, I'm Slovene by birth,
Yes.
did. So all the what people study as guides, I studied all that, plus
Okay.
all the everything else that I get from yourselves and
Oh,
from childhood protection. So thank you personally very, very much, and to everybody else. So thank you.
well, thank you for sharing that, because I think it reminds us that, raising children, whether we're grandparents, parents, caregivers, it takes a village. It takes others who, have different perspectives, who or I'm passionate about sharing this, so
Yes.
I'm so glad that it was good for you and of support. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Life support.
Nah.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. I might ask you to do a video testimonial, because this was very nice.
Oh, no, I mean that.
Yes,
Especially
yes.
being stuck in a foreign country whose language I don't fully.
Master.
I can do a bit of Spanish and not be unvaccinated and be unable to be able to mix.
Yes, that must have been very
Yes,
hard.
that's
Well,
right. So
good. Yeah.
thank you.
Yes. Well, you're very, very welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank
So,
you.
so I just wanted to kind of follow up on the next six tools that I shared since our last call on Tuesday. And I'll go through them briefly, and then I wanted to share my screen and share something about kind of our way of parenting, and kind of the mindset shift sometimes we need to have. And I also had some questions that came in on the Google Doc. So maybe I will answer those first, because they were about tools that I've shared previously. And so this is Ina. I hope I'm pronouncing her name properly. And her child is 3 years old. And her question about the follow through tool that I talked about on Tuesday, and then I shared with you this idea that, when we say we're going to do something, we need to follow through, because this is how our children are going to trust us and know that we mean what we say, and that we do what we say we will do. And so her question, though, was more about how many reminders to give the child. For example, if we don't finish getting ready for bed before 8 p.m., we won't have time for story. Do you do it more than once, or just the once, and that it is you to accept the consequences? So for me, this is more the also planning ahead. So that's a mixture of the two tools of really planning ahead. If you have told your child, that by a certain time, so here I like to have a visual reminder. So maybe like an hourglass or a 5 minute, sand glass, or maybe on the clock. 3-year-old is kind of, they don't have concept of time. So that's kind of hard. So that's why to me, like a visual, maybe a light that changes. Sometimes we have now these, lights that will change. Or what I really like to use sometimes is an auditory sound, so a music, right? So by the end of when this music ends, we will be in bed reading a story, right? So that there's a real sensorial kind of timeline that is going to remind them. And I just need to mute. Okay. That we have that reminder. And so for the 3-year-old, that's going to be helpful. It's going to take probably a little bit of time, right? That we're going to remind them, but remind them with loving kindness. So maybe the first time is like, oh my goodness, the music is over and we're not in bed to read the story. Well, we'll read it. We'll read another one tomorrow, right? It's no big deal. It's not a punishment. It's just the way it is. And that, maybe spend a little extra time cuddling or whatever it is that you do in that routine. But it is important to stand kind of your ground and your understanding and remind them each day, every day, before you start the routine, to remind them what is the expectations, right? It's like, oh, we're going to listen. And when the music is over, we need to be in bed so we can read the story, right? So that we're reminding them, so that by the end of that song, they might, they might hurry along and jump into bed, maybe not completely in their pajama, but that's okay. Like they're getting the routine part of it. So I hope that helps. And this was for Enna, who is on the call. So if you have any follow-up questions, let me know. And then the other one was about routines. So routine and positive timeout. So those are two of the tools that I shared that we kind of create with the child, right? We're creating a kind of a cool out space with our child. We're not creating something and then saying, oh, this is where you can go, right? Where we want to have their buy-in. We want them to be involved in it. So that is important. And the same with the routines. And I would say 3, I mean, depending on your child, right? Because if we remember, the child before 3 is really this unconscious learner. They're being driven by a life force. They've got their own agenda. And sometimes it's hard for us to understand and kind of be there for them. So it's really important for me to be aware of that and not have these expectations of when they are a little bit older, where their reasoning mind starts to collaborate and they become a conscious learner. So at 3, I don't think it's too early to start, but don't have expectations of that they get it and they understand it every day, because like I say, every day we have a new child. We have a child who is developing, who is growing, who is learning new things, who is in their sleep, they they kind of process the day before, all this. So they're always constantly learning, constantly evolving. So we must always keep a very genuine curiosity about who this child is each and every day. But definitely, having a routine, having their buy-in early on is very important, because even before that, it is up to us to have a consistent routine, right? This is this idea of order, that children need to have order in their life to be able to make sense of the world. And this is really calms them to know what is predictable, to know what to expect. So we're already starting in a way much before, but if you want to start a visual routine chart for your 3-year-old, you definitely can. I would, have a shorter, maybe little routine, so they can start having that self-awareness, that self-confidence that they can do things on their own. So hopefully that answers well your questions. And like I say, you can either ask in the chat or unmute yourself and ask me anything. So the other thing is I just wanted to kind of follow up on the 6 other tools that I shared since Tuesday. And so this first one is this notion of asking curiosity questions. And this to me is really very important to kind of change the way we are speaking to our children, or we have this expectation of our children. We tend to give a lot of orders. We tend to tell them what to do all the time. And so this doesn't always feel good to us because we feel like we're drill sergeants and, being always telling them what to do. And it's not really beneficial to them because they're not thinking for themselves as to what it is they need to do. So I much prefer asking curiosity questions, meaning instead of telling a child, put on your shoes, we can say, oh, we're going to go to the park. What do you need to put on your feet? Or, what do you need to put on it's raining outside. What should we put on our backs to go to the park? Right? So we're asking them to think for themselves. We're asking them to take ownership of the situation as opposed to just telling them what to do. So that is really a beautiful one, is this idea of asking curiosity questions as opposed to commands and, constantly telling them what to do. The other one, and this to me is like one of the real foundation of this respectful kind of parenting and attitudes, is offer limited choices. And when I say limited, I really mean just 2, because the young child is developing their will. They are developing this ownership of what they can and cannot do. And this is why, around 2.5, 3, we have children who are going to push back the boundaries because they are testing their limits. They are developing their will. And for them to be able to develop their will, they need to have choices. So they can make choices, so that they can tune in to who they are and what their choices are, right? So, for example, maybe again, we're leaving the park and your child, is kind of resisting, doesn't want to leave. Give 2 choices that you are 100% comfortable with, that you can really follow through with. So maybe, would you like a piggyback to the car? Or would you like to skip to the car? So make sure that you're able to give a piggyback, that you're feeling strong, or that, you can skip, or maybe run to the car, or things like that. So you're giving them choices that are very important. Very welcome, Anna. I hope that was helpful. And or for example, when getting dressed, try as much as possible to not give this, multitude of choice of what would you like to wear today? Because oftentimes they will probably choose that one piece of clothing you really did not want them to choose, right? So limit the choices. Maybe you make a few choices beforehand so that there's 2 outfits to choose from. Would you like to wear this one or that one? The blue one or the red one, right? So that we're simplifying our kind of our day-to-day, and we're helping them develop their will. So limited choices that you're 100% okay with. The other one, check your perceptions and expectations. And this, I think, is, it's funny because I did a live not too long ago about, I had just reread the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel about, and one of them is not to take things personally and not to make assumptions. And to me, this one kind of goes hand in hand with that, because we are sometimes perceiving our children's behavior as bad or as misbehaving or such. And I want you to try to, tune out that judgment voice and really try to understand what is it that they're trying to communicate. Because if we remember that behavior is a form of communication. So if we can kind of tune down that judgment voice, or the voice that is making us have expectations, or that we anticipate some things, and really see them for who they are, it will make things a lot easier. And then the expectation is also like be okay with acknowledging like where they are developmentally, right? In their age level, in how their character are, if they, are neurodiverse, or wired differently. Like we have to have the expectations that are to their level, to their age, to who they are. So hopefully that helps. So let me see here. Eva has a question. How can we tell if a child is truly interested in something or just following along with what someone else is interested in? Sometimes I wonder if my 5-year-old is truly interested in something, or if it is because it's what I have been talking about or showing her. Well, that is a great question. And I think that you will perceive, when you like observe them, right? For me, if a child is not interested in something, they will mishandle maybe the material, or they'll fidget and get bored and kind of, quote unquote, misbehave. And that's just a form of boredom, of, this isn't interesting. I think that, it's important to be observing our children so that we can follow their lead, right? We're the ones that are following what their interests are. So I'm hoping that what you're suggesting, you got information by what, what your 5-year-old has been talking about or interested in, or conversations, or maybe observing more. And that's what you're offering. So they are interested. And, maybe also this is a good time to be offering kind of, there's a weird sound coming out. It's a good time to offer her choices, right? Maybe think up of 2 different things that they might be interested in, and then say, would you rather do this or that? So that it is her choices again, right? Always have 2 or 3 activities that you could offer, and then it will be, you will be more able to follow her lead and observe her. And then my 6-year-old does copy a lot his sister. Yes, well, that's just part of it. I think that's just part of having older siblings. We look up to them. We want to do things with them. If the older sibling is okay with them following along and doing things, I think that is wonderful. They learn a lot from each other. That goes in waves. I have 2 children, 4 years difference. The younger one was always following, his sister around, until one day the sister was like, okay, I've had enough. You do your own thing. And they kind of, did their own thing for a while. Now, they're young adults. They adore each other. They have very, very, very different lives, but they really encourage each other and inspire each other. And I think that's part of being a sibling. Now, again, if, you feel that it's maybe getting in the way of the older sibling, or that you would rather that the younger sibling maybe isn't quite ready to do an activity, this is where you can offer choices. It's like, would you like me to show you how to do this so that you can do what your sister is doing? Or, cutting apart the tasks, right? So hopefully that helps. Okay, Eva and Cosette, thank you for those questions. So where was I? Oh, my favorite. Well, these are all my favorite. I always say my favorite, but these are all amazing. Keep your words to a minimum. Avoid lecturing. Children tend to tune us out, right? Their attention span for our kind of, explanations is very, very limited. And I forget exactly the quote, but there is in one of Dr. Montessori's books about, really choosing your words very mindfully because, they tune out. So sometimes it's just one word, right? When there's maybe something on the floor to be picked up, you can say towel. That's it, right? You're just seeing it. You're just so that you don't have to, go into lecturing mode. Oh, I've told you not to leave your towel on the floor and, it gets dirty and da 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 da. No, they will tune out. So be very mindful to use your words properly, mindfully, and to a minimum. And this is, of course, not when we're storytelling and, sharing other things, but this is more when we're trying to guide them into doing something or not. We try to keep things to a minimum, which is the same thing, when we are Montessori guides, right? We at least for the 3 to 6 year old, the younger children, we tend to maybe say a few more words, but for the 3 to 6, oftentimes it is, oh, let me show you something. And we take them to the shelf. We tell them what the activity is. We show them how to pick it up. We let them pick it up, take it to a table or to a mat. And then we start doing the activity. We might give the vocabulary of what each object is, but then we are really, really mindful to just show, right? What I shared last time, show this acronym about slow hands omit words. They are so focused on what it is they are watching you do that if we start talking and explaining what we're doing, they're going to look at our mouth and they're not going to be able to see what we're doing. So we really need to kind of take those two apart, right? Um, the other one was use active and reflective listening. So this is a form of nonviolent communication that is really important in that we need to reflect back to them what we're hearing. So if we're truly listening, we can say, oh, you're telling me that you were upset because your brother took your that blue crayon from you. And that's it, right? We are listening as opposed to kind of half listening and go, oh yeah, you're upset. You here, have another crayon, right? We're not like tuning in to what it is that they are needing us to hear and reflect back to them and help them process what it is that's going on. And then very important with young children, and I think with anybody, with adults, with anybody that you encounter. And I know that this can be different in some cultures where eye contact is not always approved, especially between male females. But for me, as adults with children, it is so, so important to get down to their eye level so that we can make eye contact and we can connect with them on an equal level. Because imagine when you are a young child and you have this adult towering over you, you're looking up, up in their nostrils, up in their eye. They look like they're huge and intimidating. And so it's for us to just come down to their level so that we can really connect and maybe repeat or say that one word or connect with them on a very face-to-face eye level. And there's actually I interviewed once Tina Payne Bryson, who wrote The Whole Brain Child and No Drama Discipline, a wonderful author with Dan Siegel, and she was explaining that there's actually brain activity that goes on that when we get lower, even lower than their eye level, the cortisol goes way down, right? Their stress level goes way down. So think about that when a child is upset, like really come down to their level. If you can come down even lower than they are so that they're looking down at your eyes, and it will really calm them. And think of it also with other adults, right? We tend to sometimes not look at them. For me, it's always been very important to have eye contact and to be able to see, into them and to know, and for them to know that I'm here and I'm listening and I'm available. So that is the 6 tools for this time. And so I wanted to share something with you quickly, unless you have questions. Anybody here have other questions? Questions have been great so far. No, okay. So I just wanted to share something. Let me see how to do this. Share screen. This one, share. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Let me see. I need to see you too. There we go. Okay. So the screen is just white right now. And so this is about where we stand on our firmness and kindness. So we can either be very kind, right? We super kind, or not so kind of on maybe, even mean or just not, happy-go-lucky kind. And then we have this firmness, right? We're building a quadrant of kindness and firmness. And then we can be kind of not firm at all, kind of, easygoing, whatever happens, happens. Or we can be extremely firm, like it's my rules. So this to me is a quadrant to think of where you stand as a parent or where you want to stand. And I will say, when I share this, that we're often all over the place just because we're humans and we have our moods and we have our stress level and we have our lack of sleep and whatever. But this is kind of the quadrant where we navigate, right? And so if we have a lot of kindness and no firmness, we end up being very permissive. And that is what we call freedom without boundaries. And if you remember correctly, boundaries are important for children. They feel completely overwhelmed if they don't know what the boundaries are, because it is too much for them to figure out, right? They're new to this environment, to planet Earth, and they need our help to have those boundaries. So permissive parent is somebody who is extremely kind and has no firmness whatsoever. Someone who has no firmness, no kindness is an uninvolved parent. I would even say a neglectful parent, which I doubt any of you are, because you wouldn't be on a keep cool and carry on discipline challenge if you were uninvolved, right? But there are some caregivers and parents who are in that quadrant. And then we have the not so kind and extremely firm parent. And that would be the authoritarian parent. This is kind of the dictator. You're going to do it my way. And this is boundaries without any freedom, right? This is, I have the rules. Now, in this challenge, what I, want everybody to understand is that the kind of the beautiful balance in parenting is to be in this authoritative parenting where we are both kind and firm at the same time. This is what we call freedom within boundaries. We are letting the child know what the boundaries are, and within those boundaries, they're free to move about, do things their way, as long as we're not hurting them, hurting themselves, hurting anybody, and that we're being respectful. So it's really, that is the sweet spot for me, is to be kind and firm at the same time, to be an authoritative parent, which is more of a democratic household, right? Where we're going to collaborate with our children, where we're going to find solutions together, as opposed to feeling like we always have to tell them what to do, or, give up and not tell them what to do. So I just wanted to share that with you, because it's important in understanding this whole, concept of positive discipline is there, and to also think back of like how you were parented, right? Because maybe you had a very permissive parent, or maybe you had a very authoritarian parent, and you're trying to navigate and find your sweet spot of being that authoritative parent, because you know in your heart that is what you want to give to your child, to have more of a collaborative relationship with them and find solutions together. So that is it for my little share of the day. I hope that was helpful. Cosette, I think I struggled with these two words, a kind, and mix them up, not knowing that they're different. Okay, so did this quadrant help understand the difference between this authoritative and authoritarian? Authoritarian is really like you're in charge, you're the dictator, there's no other ways. I'm the one setting the boundaries, you have no freedom, and I'm not going to trust you to find solution or to collaborate with me, basically. As opposed to the authoritative, which is more about involving the children in finding solutions, right? In helping them do better next time. That is really where we want to help them like grow into confident, resilient, caring adults, is if we have this collaboration and find solutions with them. I love this. I feel I don't know when I am being unkind or too firm. So I think this is great question, Eva. I think this is important to check in with yourself sometimes, right? To ask yourselves, like, how does that feel to me, or maybe even my inner child, right? How is that resonating with me? Because sometimes I think those maybe, doubting ourselves comes from our own childhood and what we're still processing, right? Because I think when we become parents, and maybe when we become grandparents like Marietta, we're still processing of how we were parented, or maybe how you parented your own children, and now you're a grandmother and you get to parent differently, right? You get to learn from everything that's going on, and you realize, oh, I could have done it differently. So now I can't wait to be a grandparent, because it will be an opportunity to to really use all these tools that I've learned along the way that I maybe didn't know when my children were young, right? So I think you having that reflection, that inner, sense of, am I being too firm, unkind, all this, that is beautiful, that you are questioning yourself, because that is how we grow. That is how we evolve. So I think, the best is to also say, I'm doing my very best. This is what I feel I can do. And I am coming from a very kind, loving heart, and this is the best that I can do, so that you know, the negative self-talk kind of also quiets down, because that whole that can be really hard on us parents, is we tend to judge ourselves quite a bit. So I hope that makes sense. Cosette says, me too. My son asked me once, are you our boss? I like that, because you act like one. It made me feel awful. Well, that is a very good perception of your son. And I think you can thank him and say, oh, thank you for sharing that. My job is to try to keep you safe and to show you what is the proper way to be a human on this planet. And sometimes I need your help. So thank you for letting me know that maybe my tone of voice can be different or whatever, right? Because they are our teachers. They are telling us, they are reflecting back. So if your voice is maybe coming out as, you're being a little bossy, and then I think it's beautiful that your son feels confident enough to share that with you, and that you're able to hear it, because I think, maybe a few generations back, I don't think we would ever dare say something like that to our parents, and our parents would probably, punish us for having, shared that. So I think here it's important to take it as, oh, thank you for sharing that. I'm going to try to do better. What would make me sound, not so much as a boss? And then maybe also ask them for help. It's like, well, sometimes I do feel like I have to be the boss and I'm repeating myself and it's really tiring. Can you help me out? Can you help me so that I don't have to remind you what to do? And that's maybe where, you come up with a routine chart or you do something. But this is a beautiful dialogue to have with them, and yes, I can understand that it made you feel awful, but use it as, again, like a little trigger of, or an activation of, huh, he probably is right. I might need to, use a different tone of voice or something like that. So our children are amazing. Um, well, thank you. This has been wonderful for all of you to be here. I really appreciate it. I will have another call on Saturday, so it'll be later in the day. I do believe I said 2 p.m. San Diego time where I am, just to try to, get other time zones. So I hope to see you then. And thank you for being here, and thank you for being awesome parents who sign up for these kind of challenges, because I think that is a testament to your wanting to be the best parent you can be. So thank you. All righty, take good care, everybody. Bye-bye till next time. You're welcome. Bye-bye.